Like really live?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad you're here today. We have had all kinds of people responding to today's subject. And even though we're starting it out with a particular topic, you're still welcome to answer or ask your questions, and we can. This is the rabbit hole. It's going to go in all kinds of different directions, or it can go that way. It's allowed to go that way. This is kind of an organic conversation, and where we start generally is not where we end up at. So, but let's get on to it. So we had an incredible amount of activity and response on some posts that we did regarding the consciousness singularity. And this has been a topic of mine that has just fascinated me for quite some time. And Gary remembers a few phone calls that I'm just like, hey, dude, I got to talk to you about this. This stuff is just flowing into my head and I don't know what to do with it. So here's a question I'm going to start us with. And we're going to kind of go from there. So was the Big Bang really more of an expansion of the super consciousness, the one mind, shattered into billions, trillions of separate souls? It's our, is this our reason, our prevalence to want to, as an innate ability, connect with people, with groups, with clubs, with organizations? Is it a prevalence to reconnect a splintered mind of eons ago? Ironically, we as a species have been trying to create the singularity. Now, the term has been, I don't want to use the word hijack, but it's close. But it's being used a lot when it's kind of talking about AI. The great singularity is when the human mind merges with the artificial intelligence mind, and that we're all connected that way. So in a sense, we are trying to recreate or reconnect artificially, electronically, wire us in. And we're trying to do this and it's already something that we can do naturally. But we still come down to that disconnect that modern society, modern humanity as a whole has from the way that we were developed hundreds of thousands of years ago. And that's our topic today. And we're really interested to see what everybody has to say, because we move into what that space is. What is that space that's so vast? How do we get there? And one of the things that Gary and I are so focused on, it's our passion, is to move away all of that that baggage that we're carrying. And some of that baggage we're carrying from our current life. Some of it has been ingrained into our DNA, and so we're taking it along from other past lives, depending on how you want to define that. And what we want to do is just like let's move this stuff out of the way, because it's just creating all these little roadblocks that are here for you, where you can actually get to truly connecting with the one mind, that great consciousness, the infinity matrix. And Gary, what are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I think, there's a couple of conversations, I think, going on here.
A lot of conversations.
What you were referring to with the AI is more of what's called technological singularity, right?
Mm-hmm.
and it's the technological singularity is the AI, being created, or the intention to create AI smarter than human, right? That's the, or better than human.
Mm.
Where I think our conversation is more around the consciousness singularity, which is more of when, and believe me, I've done a lot of thought on this, and it's really hard to kind of bottle into language.
It's so vast.
Just even the concept of it, right? So the consciousness singularity, the concept is that when individually and collectively as a species, we expand our consciousness into a place that we can't currently consciously think about. It's like it's the equivalent of the event horizon, right? You don't know what's on the other end until you get there.
And as you approach it, the event horizon,
It's a new event horizon, and the past changes instantly as well. So the more we dive into the nature of reality and how we have a role in that, the more I kind of struggle with that, the singularity thing, because I mean I get glimpses of the singularity happening all the time. It's
right?
like being in constant, we have a teacher of ours that says, make the unknown your friend.
Mm-hmm.
And the singularity is that it's like you have no idea. It's so beyond what you think. It's like, one of the analogies I came across was, it's like um, if a dog or dog species were to evolve to the level of human consciousness, the gap is so vast that in the dog state, you couldn't possibly consider what that is like, right? But there's a singularity moment where that consciousness of the individual animal or being or soul and the collective all kind of come to an agreement, say, oh yeah, there's something new going on here, and we're all playing in this new level now.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You kind of remind me, what you just said reminds me of what a neuroscientist, his name is Sean Mikula. He goes, the conscious singularity refers to a hypothetical point of time in the future when human consciousness at both the personal and species level experiences an abrupt transition, a phase transition of sorts, into a collective state of transcendence that is conceptually, and this is where you're at, conceptually impossible
Yeah.
for us to imagine, you know, what it's like, and with our current limited cognitive abilities. And because it is, and this is close to what exactly you were saying, Gary, is that, and this was from back in the 50s. This quote came from the 50s, because this is not a new concept,
No.
not at all. But it's a fascinating concept, and that this is so grand. And what we see now, and again, where I talked about the term being hijacked, is because, as Gary said, is that we have a technological singularity where, we want to connect the human mind to computers, to one computer, so that we're all interconnected in that way.
It's
you
the
know
Borg.
yeah, exactly. And hoping that nobody has their hand on the plug.
That's my
um,
second. That's my second Star Trek reference. In, in,
if I'm marking it down, okay.
I
So
might even throw in a Doctor Who one today too, so we'll see.
I never watched Doctor Who, so if you
What?
say
Oh
it,
my
it'll
gosh.
go right over my head. Like, man, he's a woman, then he's a man, and I'm just like, like there's a concept here I'm kind of digging, but I'm like, okay. So so anyhow, you have this technological one where, you know, where it's like we always do, is like, we are man, we have ego, man, woman, mankind, humanity. You know, we have ego, we can do it better than nature, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to recreate nature. We're trying to recreate something in the universe when, you know, how do you recreate something when you can't even figure out how the original one worked?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be nearly as good. It's not going to be, you know, consciousness, and the speed of consciousness is faster than the speed of light. And, you know, we're going to have glitches, we're going to have sunspots, we're going to have power failures, we're going to, you know, and it's just, you
Well,
just,
that's on the way to the singularity, right? I think the
right,
singularity is when all of that shit gets sorted out, and then all of a sudden the new reality is that,
right. But
right?
but that new reality in this respect is still based on technology holding it together.
Yeah, you know, and so my thought on that then, Ross, is that, you know, who's to say that technology in and of itself can't become consciousness, right? I
That's a good
mean,
question.
we don't have to be salt-based mechanisms to be conscious, right?
That's right. And then we'll all be back. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's you can you got it. So there's, you know, there is that possibility that we will create an artificial intelligence that can go, you know, one of two ways. It will either be there to serve us, um, and or lead us, or
So I'm
one of
going to
the
hold on that. So again, I think that there's, again, these, it's, so my infinity mind says, well, who's to say that it serves us? Maybe we're serving it. Or
correct.
who's to say that there's a serving of anything? Maybe it's a collective, we are just all in this beingness. And I think it's hard to deny that it's a potential future for us, right? I think it's at this point, you know, with quantum computers and stuff that's really now becoming more mainstream conversations. I think we can't deny the fact that the technological singularity is somewhere on the horizon. Where, when, who knows? But it's somewhere on the horizon. And I think as a I think the more we enter that realm with a open mind of let me just let someone in here. Sorry, with an open mind of um, anything is possible, because again, that's the idea of the singularity, is that anything is possible,
Mhm.
right? And so it's not necessarily that the AIs are serving us, because that then puts us in a hierarchy.
Well, and exactly. I mean, and to carry that even further, you know, you may have an AI that just looks at us and going, "Yeah, guys, I'm going to Mars."
Peace.
You know, and that is one of
Live
the
long and
theories out
prosper.
there. Exactly.
Gone.
Elon, yo, come on. You know, let me show you how to build that better, and let's just get out of here.
So who's to say then, Ross, that it isn't already happening that way?
That is true. That is very, very true.
Right?
We do not know, and but still, my point is still that that is all still technologically based.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that's the two roads that we have.
Yeah, you know,
And then
and I think
each one of those roads splinters into a number of different possible realities.
absolutely, and you know, the the singularity, the consciousness singularity I think is more our human attempt when we're in the conversation around it is our
Sure.
human attempt to scientificify or Kate enlightenment, right? Is
Yeah.
to how do we put enlightenment into a formula? How do we put enlightenment into
A program
an ABC system of here, do this, get that?
for ones and zeros.
Yeah, you know, and that's where I think the conversation ends up, is that it becomes what's the scientific component or elements to create this transcendence of human consciousness into the next level,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think as humans, you know, we enter that conversation with all kinds of limitations and biases, that we're the only ones that go through a singularity, that you know, the other entities or life beings, however low consciousness they have, don't go through singularities themselves.
Or that we even know about.
Correct. Yeah. You know, I mean, the you know, the ant on you know, on one side of the planet has no clue about the bird on that's flying above it, and yet they're both still living in the same existence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we could be ants with something flying above us that we have no idea, because it's just not within our realm of awareness. It's not within our conscious. It's not within our
program.
yeah, it's not within our bucket of consciousness to hold, right? It's flowing on the outskirts, which is again where we talk about infinity matrix. It's not this or that, it's this and that and that and that and all of it.
Right. I mean, even if you look at the biological construction of numerous different, whether it be insects or dogs or cats or anyone's eyes, just the eyes, the biological, because you know, an eye is not an organ. An eye is a nerve. It's just a sensory nerve. It's directly part of the brain. So, so think of it like this: is that the construction of the eye for humans is way different than the construction of the eye for, say, a cat. A cat can see more. It can see deeper. It can see more levels of, and um, more. It can absorb more light. It can. I think it was the cat that can see in infrared.
Well, we can too. We just don't do it. You
That is
know,
well.
we turn on the lights, we turn on, you know, things. So if we were to like naturally train our eyes to, you know, to see in those different changes, then, you know, we would be able to do that too. But also
Mhm.
same with our senses. But we've desensitized so much just to not have to feel everything from everybody.
Correct. Exactly.
All the time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's how we have our own individual experiences. And again, this is where the paradox of the singularity comes in, as far as consciousness singularity, is that how is it that you as an individual can get to this singularity place, while collectively there's the collective consciousness gets to a space too, where they're going beyond where they were, and to have that happening at the same time, so that we shift realities collectively.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation.
Meditation is absolutely powerful, and you know, the Eastern philosophies, you know, in Zen Buddhism, and I mean they do the non-scientific way of singularity, right?
Exactly.
They're into the experiential, you know, and more of the esoteric, if you will, way of accessing the singular. You know, if you ever have the experience of getting a true enlightenment experience where you really come into full awakening of a truth.
Yes.
You cannot put it into words. You can try as much as you can, and you quickly realize that as soon as you start to minimize it by words and minimize it by a code of some kind, that it doesn't do it justice. It really doesn't. I've talked about it before, but I did I've done a process called the Enlightenment Intensive, Illumination Intensive, many years ago, and I've done a few of them, and it's a meditation retreat where you kind of check out of everyday reality for 5 days, 3 to 5 days, depending on who's doing it, and your sole objective with everyone else there, your sole objective is to get a direct experience of the truth of who you are. Not the labels, not the ideas or the concepts, or it's a direct experience of the truth of who you are in the moment. And I tell you, when it happens, it's this whole, that's why I said, I think about this a lot. This whole singularity thing, it's when you're doing the experience of really trying to directly connect with the truth, it's like you're running up to the horizon of a place where you have no idea, or you're so uncertain, you're like always getting there, and as you're doing the process, you're kind of stripping away all these things that are not you, or not direct experiences of you, but are concepts or shells, or like Ross has talked about, things from past lives or baggage and all the, you start to kind of dump all that stuff and kind of clear that stuff out. And it's exciting and scary. It really is, because you don't know.
Well, it's your identity.
Yeah,
You know, like
that's the thing that holds you to this reference. It's beyond identity.
Right? You're living in this shell, and you're now outside of it.
Because identity still holds on to a belief system, right? Whereas this is even beyond that. It's not tied to some definition, right? It's definitionless. And so it's an experience, and I think with as it's so in physics, right? The black hole is where you can't see beyond the event horizon because the light can't escape from it. Well, in a similar way, we can't see or imagine what's beyond our the conscious singularity, because it's beyond our cognitive, imaginative capability. We just can't imagine it.
Yeah, but Gary, I think that sometimes when we want to reach there, we should not dissect. The problem is because we are such logical human beings. There's too much science that we need it to be proven. We need the science to prove it. But reaching there does not require the science to prove it, because, as you say, it is a feeling that is so deep when you are reaching your eye and going into that deep consciousness. You don't need to dissect it. It's there because it's already there from the beginning of time. And if you dissect it, it becomes too complicated. That's why you have this AI coming in and all that. But maybe AI will prove certain things because of the physical force, the energy. But in reality, it's already there. So it's for us, as you say, if it is the awakening, in my own little mind, is it the awakening in terms of us being conscious by flowing into it, and it's there. And that's why I like to also ask a question, which maybe both you and Ross could come up with this: the mind and the heart.
Mhm.
The one that is guiding us? Is it the mind or is it the heart? Sometimes when I read something, they say it's the heart. And sometimes they say it's the mind that tells you all, and that's how you feel. So I kind of would like to know and explore this much more.
I
Is
think
it the
I think it's more of isn't it both? So if I'm holding this phone, okay, am I holding it with my right hand or my left hand? Okay, if I take away the right hand, it will fall. If I take away the left hand, it'll fall, and such. So it's an orchestration between two powerful parts of our body. I mean, the science that's coming out now, as far as um, uh, the ability of the heart to connect with the entire body, the nerves, the actual neurons that are in the heart, you know, are far greater than the neurons that are in the brain. They have two functions, but they work together. So, you know, one, it's kind of like the right side of the brain, the left side of the brain, you know. So which one's controlling my day? Well, both of them are. They're connected. And
Yeah, I think it's the not we need to step out of it. Is it this or that, right? It's
correct.
this and that. We need to
Exactly.
remember to keep stepping into this and that. It's like, okay, well, you know, is it your heart that keeps you alive, or is it your liver, or is it your kidney, or is it your, I mean, if you don't have one of those, you know,
Challenge.
it becomes challenging to live a healthy, normal life, right? So you know, but the beauty is that you know, the whole system is so adaptive that if, yes, something does happen with one of those, other pieces of the systems will step in and play the role that it needs to play to give you the life experience that you've chosen to live.
Now, here's the question I would have with that, is that, and I haven't done any research on this, but it's actually going to go on my list, is does a person who has an artificial heart, do they experience some sort of a change when that organ and all the neurons and the energy that is built into that is removed and replaced by technology? I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm just saying, okay, so we have mechanically replaced a pumping system. Okay, but was there a price that had to be paid for that? Now, and don't get me wrong, I'm not putting down this technology, but it would be worth, you know, looking into. You know, I mean, that's, like I said, that's going to go on my list now, because now you just sparked a question in my head. Curses.
I think breath is kind of like the main system, you know, because when you're born, you take a deep breath. When you die, you let go of your last breath, you know. So I think, you know, definitely the breath has something to do with it.
Well, I mean, breathing, I mean, the whole body, our entire body is a giant pumping system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's only one self-actuating pump in the entire body, and that's the human heart. Everything else is based on breathing and movement. And in this modern society, we don't move nearly as much as our bodies are designed to have us move, and we don't breathe as much as our bodies are designed to breathe. So you're spot on.
Yeah, most people breathe in fight or flight mode instead of, you know, all the way down to their belly.
Sure.
Which is how we're supposed to breathe.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that still hasn't answered my question. Is the mind controlling you, or is it the heart? And Ross, you say it is both.
It's both.
But is there such a thing as one control the other? Or
I think it's the same as let's use the brain as an example. So you have two hemispheres in the brain. Okay. So certain tasks require more of the left to work. Other tasks require more of the right to work. But they're still communicating back, just, you know, but you got them talking, say, hey, I got this. Okay. Oh no, okay. Why don't you take this part, because You got more resources over there. So they're different resources. Think of it as, you could think of it as a car, for example. You have an engine, you have a transmission. Okay, so, but they're working hand in hand. The car won't move with one of them gone and such. So they work hand in hand. Sometimes the transmission is doing some of the work and such, and a lot of times the engine's doing a lot of the work. I mean, I can't see, with the exception of what I was just talking about, the people who've had heart transplants or artificial hearts, not another human heart. I can't see that one could work without the other efficiently.
But I guess I read somewhere also they did say that the heart also has a brain. So
well, that's all the neurons. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's where they, they've discovered that there are more and more neurons in the heart than they ever thought. And Gary, is it the vagus nerve that's connecting the two? So you have the vagus nerve, which is connecting the brain and the heart, and so where you have the corpus callosum that connects the two sides of the brain, you have the vagus nerve that's connecting like this. We just have this giant communication highway running through our bodies.
Yeah, and what you're trying to do, Gene, is trying to separate, for example, do we do things because our conscious mind tells us to do it, or because our unconscious? Well, you can't do one without the other. And even just the terminology of trying to separate them, really, in my experience, is really kind of does more of a disservice to our capacity than it serves us. Because to say that there's an unconscious or other than conscious, I have a hard time really holding that concept, that there's an other than. It's not another consciousness. It's a part of the consciousness. It's the finger on the hand. It's part of it. You can't separate them from one another. And even when you're thinking about doing something as simple as picking up a bottle of water to drink water, right? Is it your conscious mind that decided to do that, or was it your unconscious mind that controlled all of the hundreds of muscles needed to happen for you to reach over to do that, to squeeze at the right pace, to bring it over, to put it in your mouth, for the body and the organs to work the way they do when water gets in your mouth, to absorb it, and have it go? You couldn't consciously, based on the framework of consciousness that we've created, conscious definition, you couldn't be aware of all those things, because it becomes a total overwhelm.
Yeah, no, that's the unconscious mind doing it. Yes.
No, stop, Jen. It's not your unconscious mind. That's my point. Is I was consciously aware that I needed water. So it wasn't just my unconscious mind that did it. I was consciously aware that I chose this bottle. I was consciously aware that I was going to bring it to but I didn't. But there's a ton of other unconscious processes, or other than conscious, or fragments of consciousness, or roles of consciousness. Again, I have a hard time putting words into it, because it's hard to describe for me the idea that there is no separation of consciousness in a being. Right.
Well, my question is, if a baby is made in a test tube, does it have a conscious?
Good question. Let us know what you find out.
I'm like, come on.
And again, but that depends. I mean, are you talking, science fiction movies where,
like a baby created
that no human uterus is ever used? That it's just literally a
tube.
Tube.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's been done.
Well, if it has, would it?
Well, I think it's a matter of,
Like,
we don't know we know that a fetus absorbs a lot of information and a lot of data from the mother. We know that a fetus, the health of the fetus is determined by the environment of the mother. If the mother is under stress, that the fetus is going to be under stress, and we know that the fetus is not going to develop as well. We know that the fetus can or could possibly, come into this world with different types of physical ailments because of the stress that the mother's body and mind was going through. We know that, there's again, it goes back to what we were originally talking about. I mean, that was a great question, because it goes back to what we were originally talking about, is that we keep trying to replace or simulate what nature does so perfectly, because we are just bags of ego. I can do it better. I can do it faster and such. I can make a better mind. Okay, well, it's I like to use modern medicine as kind of an example. And I'm not putting down medicine in any respect, but I look at clients that I've had, and I mean, just watching commercials on TV, for crying out loud, is like, we can fix this, but this and this and this and this and this and this aren't going to work. Okay, I mean, it's just like, okay, so I'm not going to have my whatever.
Like, this pill will help you,
this
but
pill will solve
these side effects are, going to be unpleasant.
This pill will solve this and
Mm-hmm.
such, but yes, you can have these side effects, this side effect, this side effect. Or, again, when I've worked with clients in the past, it's just like, well, all right, so give me a list of the medications, that you're using. Well, I'm using this. I'm like, okay, what's that for? That's different to do this. I'm like, okay, great. I said, well, what's this one? Well, this is for the side effects of this. I'm like, oh, well, what's this for? Well, this is for the side effects of this. That's going to take care of the side effects of this. And there's just this stream. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. But that's modern medicine.
You won't have the cough, but you could grow an extra arm.
Exactly. So they're like, well, but if you think of the thought process of these companies, or of humanity as a whole, it's like, well, but I solved this problem. Well, yeah, but you created 10 more. And when we're talking about the conscious singularity, and we're talking about the technological singularity, it's just like, all right, yeah, we're getting close to where we can download our consciousness. Now, why do we want to download our consciousness? Because I want to live forever. Is that really living? Because at this particular point, if you put somebody in a sensory deprivation tank for an extended period of time, they go crazy. Okay.
Like the old dude on Green Mile.
It's like Gary was saying, is that our entire sensory system is part of the whole. And you're saying you want to take that away when your mind, uses what percentage of our capacity to balance all of those sensories. So now we're going to take all those senses away, put you into a dark hole, and then what's going to happen?
Well, we don't know, right? We don't know.
We have a kind of an idea, but that type of a dark hole is going to be a lot different than no body at all.
But here's the thing, though, Ross.
I'm going to be connected to a computer.
So here's the thing, though, because I say that what if there's another possibility that our limited understanding or conceptualization of that no sensory experience. What if it's different? What if it's not a dark place? What if it is bright and radiant and all kinds of other levels of awareness? We don't know that.
Or wonder if it's actually our true self.
You know, and it comes, and then which slips into simulation theory. Who's to say that's not what we're doing now?
Right. Yeah. So this is going to be a long rabbit hole.
Going in.
So again, going back of the quote that I was saying is that, you know, this is such a huge concept that our minds are having difficulty conceptualizing it because it's so big and it's so different and it's so beyond where we're at this particular point. So it's really something to think about. But I think all in all, though, the common theme that we've all talked about so far is the fact that we keep trying to compartmentalize all these different pieces of us: our mind, our heart, our nervous system, our, you know, our consciousness, when really they're all, from my perspective, all designed to work as a whole.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, going back to Josephine's question about the test tube thing. So, you know, while the fetus does get a lot of influence from the host, being the mother, we don't know how, we can't say for sure that it's because it's within the body or if there's another connection that's going on at a different level.
Correct.
So in a test tube model, you know, it's possible that whoever the human is that's taking care of that test tube, that some of that is not being transferred at a different level.
Right.
Right. And so the type of consciousness, I think, is more the question on a test tube, as opposed to whether it has consciousness or not. What's the type of consciousness that baby would have if it was a test tube baby? Right? What's the type of, and how would that be similar or different to what we have? Better or worse, or just, you know, or who knows? I think it's a, it's again, it's on the singularity side of, it's so beyond our, and that's why it has, I believe it's part of why it hasn't happened, is because it's beyond our perceptional ability to conceptualize it completely. Right? We're coming close to the edge. We're seeing more of that possibility, you know, and we just haven't gotten there. And I think when you do, that's when you know, the shift occurs. That's when the collective agreement or contract all says, yep, we all can agree to that being enough of a possibility that we're going to take it on and accept it as the new norm.
Right.
Yeah. What do you say, Maria? What do you think?
Nothing. I'm very excited of this special topic. But it's very well said, Gary and Ross. I love it.
Thank you.
It is very good explaining.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's, and even when you do, I mean, if we're in this moment to moment creating reality experience, it's almost like every moment is a singularity. It's just the again, how do you, I get the experience sometimes where I become fully aware of, and it's through practice and sometimes spontaneously, but I get the awareness of the moments of me existing and going from moment to moment. And in the middle of going from moment to moment, I become aware of this spectrum of infinite possibilities that could take me into the next moment, and then through that finding a fine thread of the one that I'm gonna choose to play on, and I step on that one, and then that takes me to the next moment, and it becomes really, really overwhelmed because I get caught in that. I mean, if you want to talk a rabbit hole, that's a rabbit hole, right? It's where, you know, there's this moment that leads to the next, and right in between there's these infinite possibilities in every spectrum direction that could happen.
You're describing walking on a spider's web.
Or looking in the mirror and looking in the mirror and looking in the mirror.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But not just that. It's a mirror that's all around. It's like, it's
Yeah, because when you
all
just
of
look in
these.
the mirror, look
Yeah.
in the mirror, then it's the same experience all the way across. But you need those divides and such, or the option of those divides, the possibilities of those divides. Like, where's this thread going to take?
It's the multidimensional, right? So
but
it's
they're
like,
all interconnected.
yeah, you know, like Alan Watts, you know, had a quote: "Imagine a multidimensional spider web in the early morning covered by dewdrops, right? And if you look at each of the dewdrops, each one contains a reflection of all the other dewdrops, and within that reflection of that dewdrop, it also conflicts. So it's like this never-ending reflection."
Yes.
I haven't heard that one. He's one of my favorites to listen to.
Yeah, you know, and it's the Buddhist concept of what the universe, or the universe, if you were to create an image of the universe, that's what it would look like.
Well, so when you see your multidimensional beings, you're tapping within yourself.
Absolutely. Your vibrational frequency is matching that, and that's where you're getting that stream of connection with it, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why frequency is so important. So important.
Yeah.
And some people go kind of crazy trying to maintain it 24/7, when it's just like, you know, it doesn't have to be maintained 24/7. You can, you can kind of you can redirect it, you can intensify it, you can let it go, you know, it's this, you know, but you're still in the same frequency, but you're just intensifying it now, and then you're letting it go a little bit. And
well, when you're eating properly or not properly, you really notice a difference, because like when you're eating processed food and stuff, you vibrate at a lower level, as to eating raw healthy foods, and you know, the things that vibrate higher, you know, that actually help your body to be able to reach those frequencies.
Again, it's all interconnected.
And finding what works for your vibration, right? I mean, because you know, the food thing, you know, for me, you know, I do intermittent fasting quite regularly, and then there's windows of times where I just get caught up in stuff, and I kind of get off track of doing it, and then I go back to doing it for windows of time, and I can tell you that I know a significant difference in my body's energy, my thought processes, just as a being, the day that I do my first day of intermittent fasting compared to any day before that when I wasn't doing it. It's that quick for me. And you know, and I've come to realize that for me, my body, if I just have a 4-hour window of eating, I'm so on top of things. I have massive energy, clear thoughts. You know, I exercise, I work out. I mean, I'm a pretty busy, active guy, you know, work-wise with clients and stuff like that. So I mean, it's not like I'm sitting around, you know, no energy on a couch just watching Netflix. You know, that's not me. But the 4 hours, if I extend it beyond, I can get to 6. If I get past 6, if I eat without that, outside of that 6-hour window, I really notice it in my body. It's like it's an immediate thing. So 4 to 6 hours, that's when I do all of my meals for the day. It happens in that time frame, and I'm so okay with that. I just choose which 4 to 6 hours of the day that I eat.
Right, and if we talk evolution, I mean, that's really kind of how the body was designed.
Yeah,
it really was. I mean, there wasn't, you know, Grog's fast food, back then. We didn't eat 24/7. And really, I mean, that's what a lot of people do. They're constantly eating, and they're eating, low quality fuel. Understanding that our society has changed to where we were designed to eat to live, and now we live to eat.
Yeah.
And then going back to, Gary and I have talked about this a lot too, is about going back to the quality of stuff. We do cleanses, and long cleanses, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month-long cleanse. And, and we're just like, okay, let's go. I got more energy than I ever thought. Let's go. And it's phenomenal the way it makes you feel for the long term, not just for that moment, for the long term. And but again, it's a lot of people can't do it or don't want to.
Choose not to, or they believe they
choose
can't.
not to. Exactly.
They've been conditioned to think they need certain things in a certain way. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll get into conversations with people all the time. It's like, oh no, the body can't do that. You can't go without protein for that long. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. When I turned vegetarian, we are now 30 years this year vegetarian. And when I first turned vegetarian, there wasn't a lot of people that was, into the veggie, path. And I can't tell you how many people, including medical people that I knew that were, deep into medicine and stuff. Oh man, you can't live forever like that. You can't do this. You can't do this. Your body's going to deteriorate. You're going to feel. And you know what? It's just not the case. Right. And I haven't had meat at all. I mean, I do some dairy once in a while, but I'm not heavy on dairy either. But I haven't had any meat or fish 30 years. I'm not protein deficient. There's no B12 issue with me.
Protein in that, exactly.
I mean, I work out on a rig. I for many of those years, I was a full-on martial artist, like 24/7, running a martial arts school and doing full-time kickboxing, and I mean, I was very physically active.
But plant-based food, Gary, plant-based food will make you much stronger because it's acidic. Yeah, it's the food that full of acidity that create a lot of situation in us. I started also 3 years ago to be more plant-based, and every morning I make my own super juice, mainly vegetable rather than just lemon to give the taste inside, but mainly kale and
you alkalize your body. Yeah, good for you.
Yeah. And it shows. It shows. You have very, very beautiful skin. I mean, it definitely shows.
And everybody tells me that I look so much better, and you'll be surprised. I have more energy, and actually, you can connect much more. You connect much more to whatever we are doing and think.
Yeah.
And also you're talking about that conscious singularity. You get much more too. And beyond that as well, to feel the stage of, I mean, this is going a little bit more on the spiritual side, where the mind is just, as you say, you don't believe in empty mind, but just don't feel anything, but just to feel with your heart. That's why I have this, which I'm talking about, where you let your heart flow, and you just flow, and then you just feel that you are not jinn, you are not anything. You are just, I am. There. And it's a beautiful feeling where, I explain, it's like...
you get the tingles all over your body.
Like a huge feelings that you feel, but you are not connected. You don't think of Jean, a mother, Jean, the business lady, or Jean, or anything, nothing of the sort, not even my name. You don't think of anything of that. You're just, I am, and you just feel.
Right.
And I found that during this journey, when I was eating good, eating more plant-based, this is where it takes you to. You can, when you're becoming more conscious of this level. That's why I'm always, to me, I thought that the heart is very important. But of course, the mind do direct you, is connected. But I thought that when I want to feel certain things, like for example, your mind can tell you to do certain things, and then your heart will say, no, it should be this. then somehow or other, if you listen to your heart, it's right.
Mhm.
Because mind is sometimes very naughty, tell you different things. Yeah. So, so sometimes your
More
heart will
often than not.
take you back to the right path, whatever, and you listen to it. So I was sometimes, so that's why I asked this question. Yeah.
Sure. You know, it's I don't know if I've said this before, but probably 20 some years ago, I got really, really sick. And all the tests that I went through, and I was totally fed up with Western medicine. So I went and found a very, very good naturopathic doctor. And he had these a genetics test done for me or on me. And what the biggest thing that we learned from that was that my liver didn't, it genetically just wasn't created, didn't grow the way it normally does. It doesn't filter as well as it's supposed to. Okay. And this was what was happening, is it was full of toxins from most of my life, and all that was backing up into my system. Okay. So so then I went and he sent me to have a CAT scan of my liver, and the liver specialist, he's like, well, yeah, you got this and this and this. He goes, there's no cancer or anything like that. He goes, but you've got this and this and this. And, we can, try a couple different things. We can do this medication. I'm like, no, I just needed you to read the scan. That's all I needed you to do. So I went back to my naturopathic doctor, says, here's the results. He goes, okay, we're going to do this. Boom, 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 boom. So, and this is the cleanse that I showed Gary. That's because this is where all this came from. And so I did this cleanse for 30 some days. And then I went back to the liver specialist and had another CAT scan done. And so I'm sitting in his office and I'm waiting for him to come in, and he comes in and he's just flush. He's just like, he's just looking at me, looking at this, he's looking at this, and he goes, I've never seen this before. I've never seen, your liver is perfectly healthy now. It's completely, what did you do? And I'm looking at him like, well, I did this cleanse, I did, and this and this and this. He goes, can you write all this down for me? And now I marveled at the fact that he was open to saying, you know something that I don't, which I marveled at. I'm just like, absolutely. And but I was also kind of going, you didn't know this, that just by eating differently and such like that's how this would all get solved. But what that whole event did for me, though, is it created a new normal for me. And then from then on, it was kind of like what everybody's been saying, is I'm like, if I eat something like this, I'm just like, oh man, that was a bad one, and then that just goes on my list. And then I would kind of go to here, oh, this I feel much better, that goes on this list. But there's always a list, there's always these two lists that are going and such. So and again, but and then there's the then there's the interaction of whether it be physical strength, how my mind operates, all of this kind of stuff. And it's all about, that set me to a point where, when this is and I've said this before, is that particular naturopathic doctor says, he goes, you don't know how bad you feel until I start making you feel better. And that's what he did. He just set the bar so much higher for me. My body became more sensitive, because it was in a constant state of inflammation. And
are you going to share this ingredient?
Oh, it's just the master cleanse. It's the master cleanse. Have you ever heard of the master cleanse?
No.
Look it up.
Okay.
Okay, just look it up. It's very, very simple. And the longer you can go, the better it is. Gary's done it. Gary's wife's done it. My wife, my whole family has done it. People I've been associated with, because a lot of Hollywood stars do it, because one of the side effects or secondary effects of it is that you lose a ton of weight. Okay, because it puts you in a very, very high state of ketogenic. Okay, so you are just burning fat. Now, it's not a weight loss program. That's just a benefit of it, because ultimately, I mean, because during this event with this doctor, I lost, in that 30 days, I lost 26 pounds.
Wow.
Okay. Now, of that 26, probably 50% of it came back and such. That's just the way the body, that's biology. But the point is that what really, with the whole event, what struck me was that what this doctor put me, he says, like, he goes, we just rebooted your body. You just went into a complete reboot, and you've gone longer than most people can do it. But once you kind of get past the initial hump, it's actually pretty simple. But he goes, you're just at a reboot. And his methodology was, now keep it here. Stay aware. When you eat something, if you feel tired, pretty quickly, then that goes on the bad list, because that's a
So
reaction.
did it help you like tap in more to yourself
Everything.
when you did that? Like,
Yeah.
so.
Well, especially back then, because again, I was going through a reboot. So my mind was clear. I mean, most people have, when they're doing a cleanse, they have this idea that, because they've done it wrong, is that, oh, your brain is foggy and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, it's not. If you're doing it right, you actually are thinking even more clear, because with this particular cleanse, your system isn't, all of your energy is not going to digesting or cleaning or anything like that, because it's such a clean process, so that everything is just, you just have all this energy.
Yeah, you have to remember that digestion is the number 2 energy drain in the body, second only to sex. And unless you're having sex all day, it's digestion.
And they both make you just as tired.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, because you have to think of it like this, is that, people, like, when you're eating a really heavy meal and you get, you just kind of, you feel kind of weighted down. That's because all of your blood has gone into your digestive system.
Yeah, drains your energy and your resources.
Drains your energy, and because it's not feeding energy to the rest of the body, because it's trying to digest this stuff.
And then other parts of the body suffer because of that. And that's why so many health issues come with when people get overweight, right?
Exactly. So again, it's a whole body system. Okay. The brain works better, the heart works better, your circulatory system works better. It's a whole thing. And again, in my case, and to me, it was a revelation. I'm just like, oh my God, this is crazy. How can anybody not want to be like this? And a lot of people don't. And we just have to kind of go, well, I can show you options if you're interested. That's kind of how people come to me and say, well, you're in good shape. How do you obtain this? Well, I can show you a way that, that this will work.
But that's their event horizon, right, Ross? That's beyond what they can see as a possibility or reality,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And some people choose it.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I really need this. Are you feeling like this? Are you feeling like this? I can just kind of go over the list. And not that they have the same thing that I had, but they're still going to have those same, reactions. And if the longer you can do it, the more that you reboot and reset, then you start to become very sensitive to the things that you're taking into your body or the environment that you are in. And just like, yeah, I'm not reacting very well to this. Something's off. And then you just make a note. Like, okay, I'm not going to be around this particular environment. I'm not going to ingest this or ingest that. And it just works. It works much, much better. But again, I made a hard choice, and it was the best choice.
So did you have allergies before you did the cleanse, and did you have them after?
Well, part of that whole process back then was that I actually did some allergy tests and food sensitivity tests. It was a very, very long list.
Yeah.
Very long list. And on that list were things that I was constantly consuming. And at the same time, they were draining my energy because my body was fighting them at the same time. So there's some of those I'm still, that has kind of gone back and forth. Some of those things I still have sensitivity to and I just avoid and such. And some things have gone away, but other things have replaced it. So it's like, oh, okay, well, but now I recognize the quote unquote symptom of it. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, I'm kind of getting, that's weird. I kind of get this feeling that never happened before. And then the experiment continues. It's like, okay, well, let me try this. Let me clear all this other stuff out and just focus on this. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's what it is. That goes on the list. That's fine. This one.
Allergies and those kinds of things. I think that's a whole other rabbit hole, because there's a psychosomatics part of allergies as well, as opposed to just the physiological side of it.
Exactly.
And which one has more influence, more power to shift, alter it? Again, it's brain or heart.
Yeah. And what and going off of that, Gary, what fascinates me is like, why? It's like, why did my body, why did my mind suddenly say, I don't want this anymore?
Yeah, well, I mean, an allergy is just an error in the immune system, right? It's just it right. Just tagged something the wrong way for some bizarre reason, and it could have been a variety of factors, some of it internal and some of it external and some of it made up. I in my early days of doing neurolinguistic programming, I used to do when random martial arts school, we used to do I used to see some kids who have certain allergies, hay, grass, those kinds of things. And I would there's an NLP process called the allergy relief process. And, I would sit with the kid or adult in the office and do this whole NLP process, which can take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, depending on a lot of variables. And they'd walk out there, and whatever that thing was they were allergic, they'd be able to go right to it and have no symptoms within an hour, reteach the immune system. It's doable.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of variables to make it work and to have it last, but it's doable. And it's and people are blown away by, oh my gosh, like yesterday I could be out, I couldn't be out outdoors because of all the pollen in the area, and then I do 1 hour here and I can go out and there's no issue again, and it doesn't come back. Right. So the immune system and all the systems of the body is, I think, it's a massive rabbit. There's so many.
And I think at that particular point in my life, my body was just so weakened by everything that it just kind of gave up. It was just like, no, I don't want that. No, I don't want that. So.
Yeah, well, I've done it where, it's been because we work with the physiological retraining the immune system with a specific anchoring process. But what I would do is I would kind of dig deeper to see if there was other things that could possibly trigger it again. And sometimes, I had this one kid who had allergies to dogs, and we did the process, cleared it out, was no problem. So they could be around other animals and not have the symptom, and yet when they get around certain dogs, it would blow up. Well, that's just the immune system making an error because of what it's getting from. And so what made the error? And it happened that this kid, at the time that he had visited, it was like summer holidays, he had visited some family somewhere distant, so it was away from his mom and dad, was feeling kind of low and all this kind of stuff, and so there was some emotional stuff that was kind of already influencing his body. And this dog, that was living in the place, so I can't remember if it was his aunt or uncle, whatever, but the family had this dog that barked a lot, right? And the noise just shocked his system so much that it was we had to work on clearing out the bark of a dog, not the dog, but the bark of the dog would make the actual reaction even worse than the actual dogs in the area. Because if there were dogs in the area, he would notice some, he would notice some of that stuff. But if there was a barking dog, it was 10 times worse.
Was it any dog barking? Like,
Yeah,
or
it
was
was
it a
it was just the
particular pitch?
barking of a dog. Yeah, we didn't check if there was any volume or type of dog, but it was just the barking of dog we worked on
That'd be
that
funny.
it would magnify his body's reaction because that happened at the time that his
Right.
body was, his immune system was already in a low
Right.
state because of emotions and stuff going on, all these things that were happening. And once we cleared that out, it was like no problem. It just didn't come back.
That would be interesting. Okay, get the lab in here. Okay, get the Chihuahua in here.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me the poodle. Give me the poodle.
Yeah. So there's so many variables, and to say that it's one thing or the other, is, you start to realize quickly it could be anything, and they all have some integral, they're all a part of the web, right? That connects these things and these experiences and these multi dimensions of experience and universe, right? And reality.
Exactly.
All right, I have to check out. I have something I got to get to for days. This is great connecting. Oh, Peggy just popped in. Hey, Peggy, I'm going to just say hi and bye. All right. So yeah, so if you
so one thing for Gene, just a quick, Gene, have you ever heard of the Heart Math Institute?
I heard about it, but I don't know much about it.
All right, I'm gonna put the link down in the notes. That's going to answer a lot of your questions about the heart-brain connection, and that's all they do. That's all they work on. They're down.
Isn't there a book called Heart Math too, Ross?
They might have a book out. I don't.
Something like that. I'm trying to think of what it was called. I know there was probably in the early 2000s. I remember there was a big push on something like that about the heart math or something like that, where it was all about listening and tuning into the heart and having it guide you and stuff like that. And
yeah, I don't. And to be honest with you, I don't quite understand where the name came from, but what heart math per se means. But Dr. Joe Dispenza is now pretty much partnered with them. So they're both of their research and testing is starting to merge together. I put the link in the comments. It's Heart Math, literally math.org, and it's a great resource.
Yeah, I think
there's a ton of information there.
I heard Dr. Joe's talk. I think that's when I heard Heart Math. Yeah.
Greg Braden's good too.
Who?
Yeah.
Greg Braden.
Braden does some good stuff.
Yeah. He does a lot.
The human body. Yep.
Yeah, if you distinguish between the two, Dr. Dispenza, he gets more into it,
mind
as
stuff.
far as and that heart-brain coherence. His meditations are really geared towards really intensifying that connection between the two, understanding the fact that one absolutely needs the other, and they are much more powerful.
Joe Dispenza's on Gaia.
Yeah, both of them are.
Yeah, both of them are.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be a really good source. And then if you run into some things that stump you, you can reach out to Gary or myself and be more than happy to help you out. But like I said, that their website is, they have a subscription, but the website itself is loaded with lots and lots of content. So
just come to my feed. Yeah. Okay.
All right, that's it for the day. The rabbit hole has been completed. Athena, we're so sorry that you kind of jumped on at the tail end here.
Athena, I think you got to adjust your time slot. You're an hour late, so we started an hour ago. So we're here every Saturday, but an hour earlier than when you think we're on.
Yeah, but this will be as soon as this loads, then it'll get posted onto our YouTube channel, which is hackingtheinfinitymatrix.com/YouTube, and that'll bring you directly to the YouTube channel. And this is posted there. Under the playlist, you'll see rabbit hole. So you'll find all the rabbit holes are there. And then along with the new time clips, which are segments of Rabbit Hole, featuring all of you. All right. Thank you so much. This was fun. This was great, great, great. We could go
Thank you so
hours
much.
and hours. Honestly, we really could.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
So, all
Thanks
right.
everyone for being here.
Bye.
Very much.
Bye.
Bye.